All right. Hey, Daniel, thank you so much for coming on my first podcast or video interview, whatever you want to call it. And I think I just mentioned this to you, but the reason I invited you on is because I did send you Laura. Laura's a recent buyer we just had, and she said you gave her complete peace of mind about buying in Mexico, and I think that's just something that a lot of people want. I think sometimes people, when they're trying something new or trying, they've heard these horror stories, they just
Yeah.
want reassurance that what they're doing is right, is illegal, is it easy, So that's why I wanted to have you on the show. So I really appreciate you joining me today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for the invite. It's
No
it's
problem.
my
Hey,
pleasure.
so do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you
Yeah, of
do
course.
and where you're from, where you work at, things like that?
Of course, yeah. So basically, I'm CEO of a law firm in the Riviera Maya that's called Anchor Attorneys. Our law firm is based in Playa del Carmen, which is really, really close to Tulum and also really close to Cancun. We're in the exact middle between Tulum and Cancun, actually, Playa del Carmen is. We have two specific areas that we do in our law firm, which is real estate law and corporate law.
Okay.
That's our focus. We don't do like all of them, like all the different areas. We just focus in real estate and corporate law. That those two
Okay.
things. We've been doing this for about myself. I've been in the real estate area for about 6 years now. In September, I have 6 years doing this. So yeah, we've done a lot of different transaction operations in all Quintana Roo area, which is the state. So we not only focus on Playa del Carmen. We also have operations in Tulum, in Cancun, in Colbosch, in different part of the Riviera Maya, which is growing a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot.
Yeah. I'm sure you've seen a
It's
lot
really
of
hot.
growth.
Yeah,
And
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
now, who do you help primarily? Is it mostly foreigners, mostly Mexicans? Is it a little bit of both?
yeah. A little bit of both. Well, we have both type of clients. So we have buyers and sellers, right?
Okay.
We also like for buyers, we mostly have foreigners, most of them US citizens, a little bit of Canadians, and some Europeans. That's mostly our 95% of our clients are, foreigners. And another 5% Mexicans or locals, right? And that's when it comes to buyers and sellers. We have also, foreigners, and we have some builders that we look into
Okay.
as we represent the legal staff of the builder with all the contracts and all, answering any other questions that the buyers may have regarding that specific builder or development. Yes,
Okay.
we have those 2.
Good. Good deal. Well, I do have a couple questions. These are just
Yeah.
questions, to ask a lawyer. When you try to navigate this process, like I said, it's also one of those things that just we don't know what we need to ask sometimes, and that's actually what Laura said to
Yeah.
me. She's like, "I don't know what I don't know," and she's like, "What should I ask?" And I was like, "Well, just ask." We had a couple questions for her, but she pretty much knew. She just wanted that reassurance. But the first question is, what are some specific laws and regulations regarding foreigners buying property in Mexico, and how do they differ from those applicable to Mexican citizens? I know we have a lot of like Laura, who is, was born in Mexico, so she was able to do either one. What's the difference between, and kind of elaborate a little bit on how the trust works and things like that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good question, actually. So basically, different from Mexicans and Mexicans like national Mexicans, not only because we have foreigners with permanent or temporary residency. We're talking about like Mexicans with a passport, with a Mexican passport, right? So different from us Mexicans, foreigners have to constitute something that it's called fideicomiso. That's the
Mhm.
Spanish word for the legal figure that they have to
Right.
constitute. We give the translation to trust or residential trust,
Right.
which is basically like the best translation we can give, but it's not exactly as the trust as you may know them or the people may know them.
Right.
It's more like a vehicle for the foreigners to acquire the property because due to our Mexican legislation, we have something called restricted area, which is
Right.
restricted. It's not like
Yeah.
you cannot buy in this area. You can, but it has to be through this trust that we're talking about. So
Right.
the restricted area is a strip with 50 kilometers from the coasts, so basically the sea, and 100 kilometers from borders. And
Right.
of course, if you're buying in the Riviera Maya, you're really, really close to the beach. You're really, really
Right.
close to the ocean. So it's inevitable to constitute a trust, basically. If you buy a little bit more in a certain part of Mexico, like Mexico City or Querétaro or some inner part of Mexico, then you can buy directly without the trust. But in this case, we need a trust. Okay. So how does the trust works? The first thing that you have to know is that the trust has to have an authorization from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Okay. So the ministry is the one that says, okay, yes, buyer, you're able to constitute a trust, and by means, you're able to own a property in this restricted area, in any specific location, let's say Tulum. So this authorization is going to be issued by the ministry in order for you to be able to legally constitute this trust. Okay. Now, another thing is this trust has to be constituted with a Mexican bank, with a bank that it has to be Mexican, and it's, for example, you may know some banks that are also seen here, like HSBC or um, I don't know, Scotiabank, or some of these banks that you have in the U.S. and in Canada
Right.
as well. But not all of these banks have like trustee departments. It has to be a bank that has this opportunity to set up the trust with them. Okay, so um, of course, whenever you hire a lawyer, they recommend you a bank to use. So you shouldn't be worried about that. You don't have to go and look up for a for a bank to get this done. So basically, this is how it works. You use the bank and the trust to own the property. So you're gonna be the beneficiary, the full beneficiary of the trust,
Right.
and by means you're gonna have the rights to use, to rent, to do whatever you decide to do with the property, because at the end of the day, it's yours. But
Right.
you have to involve the bank in it. Yeah, and by this, I mean, let's say somehow in the title, you'll see the bank as owner, which is not exactly per se owner, but you're using the bank to own that property, right?
Right.
And you're going to have the full rights of everything. Like, again, the use, the renting. If you want to sell, you can sell. You just have to notify the bank that you're getting rid of the property, or you're transmitting the property to someone else, right?
Right.
They don't get involved. The bank does not get involved in any decision of yours. You wanna If you wanna rent it, you don't have to pay them something from the rents. You don't have to be a bank member, or a card holder, or have an account with the bank. You don't have to do that. You'll be a file with this bank that they're gonna be holding your trust. That's it. So you don't have to move any money into that trust. The only thing that gets in that trust is property. That's the only thing that you can put into that trust. Real estate, actually. And yeah, I mean, it's for me, the only way to explain it in other words, it's like a safe. Whenever you have a safe
Right.
with the bank owns the safe, but whatever you put in it, it's yours, and you can have
Right.
use of it whenever you decide to, and you can go and get it and then sell it and then put the money in it, or something like that. Well, same thing with the trust. The trust is paper, right, that you're going to be signing, and you're gonna put a property in it, and the trust gonna the bank's gonna hold the trust and the property, but you're gonna have full access to it, and you can decide to do whatever you want to do with the property by yourself. That's
Got
how
it.
the trust works. Hmm.
Okay.
Different from like this is different from Mexicans, but because Mexicans we don't have these restrictions.
Yeah.
We don't need a trust to, or well, we don't need that specific trust to own property in any area of Mexico. We can buy directly without using a bank. We can set
Right.
up a trust, which is it's going to be a different kind of trust, but we don't need a residential trust to own property in this strip of area or restricted area.
Right. Got it. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that actually leads perfectly into our next question: with are there any
Yeah.
restrictions or limitations on types of property that foreigners can acquire in Mexico, such as beachfront properties or properties located within the national international borders? So you already pretty much discussed that. Is there anything else you want to elaborate on how that works, or?
No, to be honest with you, you can buy any kind of property. Like,
Yep.
I mean, you're still gonna be, whenever it comes to real estate, you're still gonna need the residential trust, or the
Yep.
trust. I mean, you're buying real estate, but it can be a house, it can be a mansion, it can be a little apartment, it can
Okay.
be a piece of land, like a lot.
Right. Right.
It can be whatever you decide. Yeah, exactly. It can
Commercial
be
too,
whatever you
or?
decide. Yeah, it can be commercial, but
Okay.
if it's commercial, it's kind of different. Whenever it's like that's why it's called residential trust.
Okay.
Whenever it's a designated for residential purposes. When it's commercial, it's kind of different. You can buy it as well, but it's kind of different. But for residential purposes, you set up the trust. But I mean, the different kind of properties that you can buy, like a lot, like a house, it doesn't matter which type of property you're buying. You can do it, you can get it, but you will need the trust for sure. Yes.
Okay. Got it. And then, and this was another question too that somebody else asked me. What steps do I need to take to verify the legitimacy of the property's title, ownership status? How can I ensure that there's no liens or outstanding debts
Right.
associated with the property?
Right. Another good question. So different from US and also Canada, we don't have title insurance companies.
Mm,
We have, and specifically in Quintana Roo, which is our state, where Tulum and Playa del Carmen is, we have, well, we have a recording legislation different from any other state in Mexico. So let me explain how it works. In every state of Mexico, we have a public institution that it's called public registry of the property, right? Where everything is recorded, all transactions or real estate transactions are recorded. If you buy, if you sell, it's gonna be there, right? So you can see like the record. Now in Mexico, not only we get that, but the the action of recording, it makes it official, let's say. Okay, so basically that's really important for us because if we see that something's there, it's that it's actually happening. It's like it the process got finalized, right?
right.
So we can see everything there. So that's why, well, not that's why, but we don't have title insurance, but we have the public registry. So what we do as lawyers is that we get a due diligence done. We investigate regarding, the legal background of the property in
Right.
this public institution that it's the public registry. And we go into the files and see that, like the backgrounds, like you said, if there's a lien, if the seller is actually the owner of the property and has the rights to either develop or sell the property, and we can see all the movements through the years of that specific. For example, if you're buying a pre-sale, then we can see all the movements of the property all the way to uh, how it got to the actual seller, right, or the actual
Right.
developer. So, for example, if it was the first time it was bought, it was in 1995 or something like that. And then it was sold to someone else, and this other person sold it to the actual builder in 2020 or something like that. We can see all that information, and us lawyers, what we do is that we get that information and we put it into a report and we send it to the clients, so the clients can know. We break it down for them, and the clients can know we what we saw in this investigation and have
Right.
peace of mind and clarity that everything is fine, or that we something came up, right? And
Right.
well, it's a risk, and they will determine if it's a risk that they want to take or not, you know.
Right.
So yeah, we don't have title insurance, but we have public registry, and also we have notaries. So notaries in Mexico are different from notaries in any other part of the world. Notaries in Mexico have to be lawyer degreed. They have like this power and something called public faith. So the government gives the notaries in Mexico power to formalize, in this case, for example, real estate transactions, right? So the notaries, whenever they stamp this operation, it's making it official, and they have, as notary, they have some obligations, and between these obligations is the one to certify that there are no liens, and that can and the property can be transmitted adequately, right? Like
Right.
it's good to go, and you can move forward with it. Because if
Mm.
something is going to be holding this transaction, the notary has to know, and the notary has to let the parties know as well. So, no, it's not only our job to let the clients know that there's something. Also, we have with the public registry. Also, the notary has to get this done on their own for sure.
Right. And so, like in that situation, let's say I saw this deal on Facebook. It was absolutely cheap. It's beachfront property. Um, Obviously, would you recommend contacting you or somebody like you before I do the letter of intent or after? How does that? How do you recommend that
You can,
process go?
yeah. So you can do the letter of intent. So basically, the offer letter, you can sign it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't recommend, because this is what happens. Normally, when you buy from a builder, they wait until the letter of intent or the offer letter or or negotiation letter. They call it any different ways.
Yeah.
But they wait until the client has signed that in order for them to be able to share paperwork, like legal paperwork
Yeah.
from the builder and from the development, right? Like
Right.
the legal paperwork from the land and all that. Because even though it's public, it's not like they're gonna be sharing it with all people, right?
Yeah.
So you can get an offer letter signed, and normally builders, they give you like an amount of time. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 15 days to just back out of the deal if you see something that it's not like it's not giving you peace of mind, that it's giving you some concerns. So you can back out, and they'll refund you any funds that you have, like a reservation if you put in or something. But at that point, then you can have the legal paperwork, and you can have, let's say, us or any other law firm, a local law firm, which I highly recommend. It's a local law firm.
Yeah.
Um, Us or any local law firm investigate and get this due diligence done prior to signing a contract and to moving forward with any other payments. So if
Right.
you can do it prior to signing the offer letter, like if you can be able to get the legal paperwork before signing offer letter or contract, it's great. If you need to sign the offer letter in order for you to be able to get the legal paperwork, then go with the offer letter. But don't sign any contract and don't move with any other amount of money until you get a due diligence done.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what I was gonna
like
ask.
that will be
So
the
do,
right way.
Yeah, because some of them are gonna ask for the deposit, the 5,000,
Yeah,
and it's like, so
yeah.
don't do that before you investigate. Is that what you're saying?
No, you can put the deposit, like the no, sorry, the reservation, because you have like a
Yeah, the reservation.
reservation. Yeah, the reservation you can put it in, but don't pay the deposit, which is the following payment after the reservation.
Yeah.
Don't pay the until you sign the contract, until you get the due
Right.
diligence done and you sign a promissory contract, because the contracts when it's the appropriate, like the correct document to give you legal security in case something goes sideways. You need to have a contract signed by the builder at least, um,
Mhm.
in order to get to ask or claim your funds back. The
Is
like
that and that?
more than Yeah. Go ahead.
No, no, I was just gonna elaborate on that. Because I've heard somebody say, "Well, how do I know that this refundable deposit is refundable?"
Right.
Have you ever heard of any issues with not getting that money back, or how can somebody kind of hedge themselves against that? So,
Right. Well, something that, for example, you advise to get a lawyer, right? A law lawyer. What I recommend as a lawyer is for clients to get assist by a group of professionals. And by these, I mean first and prior to getting a lawyer, first of all, and very, very important, a real estate agent. Because
yeah,
real estate agents, they get a due diligence done, not that profound as us, like legally wise, but they do, they don't you don't expect to real estate agents just to offer you any property. Is
right,
serious deals, properties that are going to be, a serious deal and give you this legal security or this peace of mind to move forward with it. So the first thing that I advise any clients is to get the assistance of a real estate agent,
yeah,
a broker. Really important because they're going to help you out with this kind of things, and you can have peace of mind that the offer letter is going to be signed and that reservation can be taken out if you don't go and if you don't move forward with the deal, right?
right,
That's my, because if you go, and like you said, I see these ad in Facebook or I saw something in the internet or something like that, and you go with it just like that, then that's why we have horror stories, and probably 95% of the time those are the cases of fraud and stuff, and
right.
which is normally a scam. But if you hire a real estate agent, they're gonna offer you like serious deals, and then they're gonna accompany you, like assist you with also getting you a lawyer involved, so you can have more legal security, this extra legal security, and also the peace of mind that everything is fine, no liens, nothing to worry about. You can move forward with the deal. So for me, I think the way to secure that your fund's going to be refundable is by going with a real estate broker or real estate agent. Yeah.
Got it. And then
Hmm.
we kind of touched on this already, but I'll go ahead and
Yeah.
repeat it. What are the
Yeah.
common risks and challenges foreign buyers face when purchasing property in Mexico, and how can I safeguard against them?
Right. So, yeah, I mean, a little bit more of the same that we just talked about. I think the steps to be really, really secure is having a great team by your side.
Right.
And yeah, full of professionals, a real estate agent, a lawyer, and a local lawyer, because laws are different even inside Mexico. So
Right.
if you get, like, for example, Mexico City lawyers are really, really good in corporate law, but they're not so familiarized with residential trust because they don't use them and some other things. So if whenever you get a local attorney or a local lawyer, it's easier for them to help you out with what you need. So
Right.
yeah, I think the best thing to do with, to reduce the risk is, I mean, I totally understand the concern of buying real estate in a different country, overseas. Sometimes you're buying, in the distance, you haven't even come down yet to see the actual physical property and everything. I totally
Right.
understand. I mean, it's scary. But whenever you are assisted by professionals, again, real estate agent and a lawyer, I think that will be the way to reduce any risk that you may have by buying overseas. So yeah, I think that's it. And how, for me, and what I always say to my clients is that what I like to do is answer all the questions. Any questions that they have, there's
Mm.
no bad questions. Everything is, you can ask everything. Everything will be answered, and I think you start to concern whenever you don't have information. So I try to, every time that it's needed, to answer all the questions of my clients so they can have the peace of mind of what's happening, what's going to happen, what's the time frame, how does any document looks like, give them like the full picture so they have peace of mind. I think these two things, like assisted by professionals and having peace of minds, no concerns, is the way to reduce the risk.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Now, this
Yeah.
one, this was also the concern that Laura had too. So, what are the
Mhm.
tax implications of buying property in Mexico as a foreigner? Are
Okay.
there any tax incentives or exemptions available to foreign buyers?
Right. This is a really good question, and it's a really technical question, but
Yeah.
I'll try to make it as simple as possible. So whenever you buy, you're not much into cutting off expenses or taxes. It's basically, even for Mexicans, the same thing as for foreigners regarding taxes, not
Yeah.
regarding the closing cost, that it's different regarding taxes. Regarding
Hmm.
taxes, you have, some taxes and rights to pay, and basically are due to the acquisition. Okay, so
Right.
normally you have, like the recording and some fees and some taxes like the acquisition tax that up to this date is the 3% of the purchase price. You have some different kind of taxes to be paid. You're not much into, there's no much gray area to cut off taxes because it's taxes, right?
Yeah.
But whenever you sell the property, then you can take advantage of different kind of things. So regarding taxes, whenever you sell, there's a capital gain tax that
Right.
you have to consider, and this capital gain tax can be reduced in a considerably amount due to different situations. For example, improvements, the time the that you've kept the property, and many other variations that will reduce with an appraiser and an appraisal.
Mm.
You can reduce the capital gain tax. Now,
Right.
there's an exemption, which is it's a little bit complicated to get to that one because there's an exemption to not pay legally not pay that capital gain tax, but it has some requirements. Now, if you're a foreigner, depending of what you want to do regarding the purchase of the property, is what I would recommend. But here's the thing: you have to be a either temporary or permanent resident. If you don't want to become a Mexican citizen, that's fine. But you'll have to have either temporary or permanent residency in order for you to be able to exempt that capital gain tax.
Right.
And your property cannot be sold for more. Well, it's not cannot be, but the requirement is that the purchase price, well, the selling price, it's less than around $250,000, more or less, $230,000 more dollars, more or less. So if you have these two main requirements, because you have some others, but if you have these
Right.
two main requirements, then you can move forward with exempting that capital gain tax.
Right. And I could probably ask
So
like
yeah,
50 different questions on that,
yeah,
but like,
yeah,
just to kind of keep it simple, I know one of the concerns, people have is what are the property taxes they have to pay yearly? What is
yeah.
that? I know in the U.S. it's like astronomical at some places, and in Mexico obviously is a lot less. Can you kind of give a
Yes.
elaborate example on that too?
Yeah. So property tax, it's really low. Well,
Yep.
for foreigners, due to
Right.
the exchange rate and all that. For us, it's not that low. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not as high as any other part of the world, because I've heard sometimes it's 30-40% of the property value, which is a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
But yeah, here it's not that high. But and it's even lower with the exchange rate of to a US dollar or Canadian dollar. But so this is how it works. So the property has three different values. The one that we're going to be using, or the government's going to be using to take in consideration for the property tax amount, is going to be it's called cadastral value. So in Spanish is valor catastral, which is in English we can translate it to catastrophe value. So
Right.
the catastrophe value is basically the value that the government gives to your property regarding the amount of land, like the surface, the area it's located in, if it's if the streets are well or not, like infrastructure and all these kind of things. They take that in consideration and they set up an amount to your or a value to your property, which is not as high as the commercial value, which basically the commercial value is how much you spend for the property, well, to buy the property, right? Like
Right.
the purchase price. It's not as high as that. It's actually really, really low, the catastrophe value. And from that, they take that amount to get the property tax, which it's like 0.0019%, something like that. It's really, really low. So normally my clients that have bought like a $350,000 property, they're paying about $400 a year, more or
Right.
less, $300 a year, which is, really, 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 really low.
Yeah.
So it's basically near to nothing. So and this, it's actually even it gets better because the property tax is paid bimestral in the year. So you count January, February, uh, March, April, and so on and so forth. So what happens is that you can pay the full year, right? And if you pay it like in advance, for example, if you pay your 2024 property tax in November, December of this year, it's going to be cheaper because normally government gives like discounts for early payments.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can get, 20% discount, 15% discount, you know, for your property tax if you pay like in January, December, sometimes even November, but normally it's December, January. If you pay like early, they give you a discount.
Okay. Nice. I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
actually pretty cool.
yeah, that's really good. Yes.
Cool. Can you explain the escrow process in Mexico and how it helps both the buyer and the seller during the property transaction?
Of course. So escrow in Mexico, we don't have escrow per se. We call it escrow because that's how
Right.
it's
US.
worldwide known.
Right.
But we don't have escrow per se. But we do use it. We do have like escrow companies, but we don't call it escrow. But it's basically the same way. There are some law firms that we have escrow accounts, and there are some independent escrow companies that you can set this up. So basically, what you need to set up an escrow account is your passport, driver's license, a proof of address, which is basically like a bank statement or a utilities service or utility bill, something like that that can prove that it's address to your primary place of living and that can prove where your address. You need these three documents plus filling in a know your client format, and that's it, basically. And we can set up the escrow with either our escrow or our escrow company.
Got it. Okay. Thank
And
you.
well, it works basically the same way. You send the money to the escrow will hold it until the escrow. It's normally used only in the resales, not in the
Right.
pre-sales. Whenever it's pre-sale, you send the money directly to the builder
Yep.
because I mean they need the money to get the construction done. And what they do is that whenever it's a resale, then you set up an escrow. So the money is sent to the escrow holds the money, and whenever it's the closing happening, then we give the instruction. Oh, well, you sign the document that it's giving the instructions to the escrow to send the money to the seller once you have a deed or a title signed by the seller.
Right. After everything's done. And how long does that typically
Hmm.
take?
To set it up or to send the money? or
Yeah,
both?
from when they submit everything and get the title and the whole process.
Well, basically, we set it up. We can even set it up prior to sending the reservation. So you can start sending money like the reservation fee
Right.
or the reservation funds to the escrow account already, and give proof that the 5,000 or whatever money has to be put in as a reservation, it's already in an escrow account, waiting for the offer letter to be signed and everything. Now,
Right.
all the money has to go into the escrow, and the same day that we get the closing done. So basically, let's say Monday, because today's Friday, but let's say Monday, we're gonna be signing the deed and closing. So at that moment, we sign the deed. Both buyer and seller signs the title or the deed that's gonna be formalizing the transaction, the transfer of the property. Once it's signed, you sign the instruction. We send it to the escrow account, or well, the escrow agent, and the escrow agent will disperse the funds. So basically the same day.
Okay, good. Good deal. Now, what are the closing costs involved in purchasing property in Mexico as a foreigner, and are there any additional fees or charges I should be aware of?
So in the closing costs, you are gonna be looking for three major expenses. So it's uh, the notary fee, which the notary fee is divided in two because, again, remember, notaries are different, and you pay the taxes to the notary, and the notary pays them to, let's say, the Mexican IRS on your behalf. Okay, that's the way the government can be sure that you're going to be paying the taxes of the acquisition. So you pay them to the notary pays them to you on your behalf. Sorry. So you have for notary fee, you have the taxes and expenses on the acquisition, taxes of the acquisition, and the notary fee for, let's say, his work. And that's the notary fee. You have trustee bank fee, which in the trustee bank, you're contemplating the acceptance of the trust. Sorry, for, the acceptance of the trustee bank to hold your trust, the permit from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that has a fee, and throughout the I think I didn't say this, but the trust has a living period of time of 50 years. So through these 50 years, you're gonna be paying annually, let's say like a maintenance fee or an annual fee. Okay,
Right.
so you pay them um, you pay them prior to the year that it's gonna be crossing. So you pay your first fee or your first annual fee in advance in this, like the first time with the permit and with the acceptance. So you're
Yep.
going to have that concept included in the trustee bank fee as well. So, and last but not least, the lawyer fee. So the legal fee, if you decide to acquire our service or any other service of lawyers, they'll have a
Yep.
fee. So the three major concepts or the three major fees that that we consider in the closing cost are notary fee, which here you include taxes, the trustee bank, and the legal fees. All these three combined, all these three sum up. Normally, it's around between 7 and 10%, more or less, depending on the purchase price.
Okay.
So these
Got it.
three, and something that you have to know is that if you're buying pre-sale, that it's gonna be finish up in, let's say, 6 months, a year, year and a half, 2 years, something like that. You don't pay all these fees up front. You pay
Right.
them in a different time, in a different situation. Like in a different time in the process. You don't pay like the full closing cost up front.
Got it. Okay.
Mhm.
And then now, I kind of asked you this earlier today, but how can I ensure that the property I'm interested in adheres to zoning and land use restriction in the areas? Obviously I'm in Tulum. I know each area has different zonings. Like, how can I make sure that where I'm buying from that it's being taken done right? Is there any way for me to
Right.
know that?
Well, first of all, the builders have to get, construction licenses and all
Hmm.
this kind of stuff, paperwork given by town hall or city hall, right?
Right.
And without this, they cannot get their developments finished.
Right.
So basically, that's the first thing that you can have as an insurance. And second, we have some documents that are called pre-closing documents that are paperwork, um, basically giving you proof of something. For example, we have a we have a non-debt certificate of property tax, which will give you proof that there's no property tax due, and you're gonna have it, like in zero for you to start paying off whenever you
Right.
acquire the property. We have a document that it's called cadastral certificate, which is a government issued document that will state um, your zoning, specific the specific category of your land, like if you can get a construction done or not. Which, I mean, if you're buying a house already built, you of course you have in your right, you have the
Right.
permission to have it. If you're buying land, this is the document that you want to look into, because that
Right.
way you'll see if you're able to build or not. You will have that. You will have the cadastral value, which we talked about earlier, which is,
Hmm.
the value of the property given by the government. You have all this information, which is more of a physical information, not so much of a legal information, but it's more as a whether you can build or not, or what you're able to build, or what use you're able to give to that piece of land. For example, if it's residential purposes or commercial purposes or any other kind. So all this information is going to be in a document called cadastral certificate.
Okay. Yeah, because I know here in Tulum, a lot of it's getting rezoned.
Yeah,
What used to be jungle is like,
yeah,
even there's some areas that are closer to the beach that are starting to get rezoned. So it's like, I knew
yeah,
that was a concern 'cause I had somebody else ask me about that too. So, and then last
yeah.
question,
Mhm.
are there any particular customs or, that we should be aware of or dealing with property transactions in Mexico? How to navigate those
Mm,
efficiently, or is it just pretty pretty simple?
Customs, not really. No. There's a really, there's a custom that you have to enjoy the process and sacrifice to coming in to this paradise and buying a property. That's a custom. Now,
Yeah.
you have to drink some margaritas and piñas coladas whenever you buy. That's a custom.
Yeah.
No, no, not that I can think of. To be honest with you, it's really
Okay.
straightforward. It's basically all there. Um, Everything, from the beginning. Whenever you start the process, you're gonna have like all this paperwork, like offer letter, promissory contract. You're gonna have the deed. You're gonna have the authorization. You're gonna have so many paperwork that you'll see it. So it's pretty much straightforward whenever you start the process. And yeah, no, I don't, not that I can think of. It's just a normal purchase.
Yeah, pretty simple. Yeah, people
Yeah.
always.
Mhm.
I think that's what people love about Mexicans is we're very transparent. We're not,
Yeah.
we don't take offense very easily. We're not,
Yeah.
we try to keep things simple. So, well,
Yeah.
that's all my questions. I do appreciate
Okay.
you coming. I'll make sure to get all your contact information in the comments. Is there anything else you could think of you want to close with, or is there anything that as far as like advice or anything like that for people thinking about buying property in Mexico?
Well, just that. I mean, I always tell my clients that horror stories come from not being assisted by professionals. So if they can stay and stick with to that idea of having, assistance, I think it's the best thing that they can do. That's the best advice I can give. Just having professionals by your side, and that can clear all your concerns, and that can give you peace of mind of what you're doing. Because again, you're buying overseas, so you need professionals by your side.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so much. I do appreciate it. And
yeah.
all right, thanks, guys. All right, bye.
My pleasure.